To whom much is given, much is required. Part of that requirement is sharing. Culture is the heartbeat within our lives, and it's at the core of so many things. While we live in a time when we are starving for wisdom, I welcome you to your wisdom retreat at Culture Raises Us. Devaris Brown is today's guest. He's actually one of the faces within the tech space, and I'll say one of the young faces, that's been making a really, really large impact on culture, to say the least. Most recently, he launched the new social media platform Spill, which he describes as a real-time conversational platform that puts culture first, which is amazing. He's a former product manager at Twitter who met his current partner and co-founder of Spill on their first day at Twitter. He has a stellar, when I say a stellar history of creating and launching brands. I really, really look forward to him sharing more about himself shortly. After we have him to give his take on, when you hear culture, what does that mean to you, my friend?
Oh man. Well, first, thank you for having me. You know, it's not very often I get fluxumed and flummoxed and all that good stuff talking to people, man, because I revere you and your wisdom and what you're trying to do, man. It's these authentic conversations that the culture needs to hear. Right.
Thank you, bro.
And they need to hear from people who are actually doing the things versus who you see, taking the credit and all that type of stuff. So for me, this is an honor, man. I'm
just
I haven't talked to a whole bunch of people, man, but this might be my favorite. So what does culture mean to me? I think it is the patterns and behaviors and practices of a certain group that outlast the moment. And can influence others to change their habits, their patterns. I think that's what culture means to me, man.
Love it. I know you very, very well, and I would love for you to give the people a little bit more of a breakdown about who you are, where you're from, and kind of how you got to the point you're at now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm originally South Side Chicago, born and raised. Came from a single mother home. Not trying to be like downtrodden ghetto youth, but I had a community around me, a village around me that, it was one of those things where people identified me as somebody that was not of the norm early and just said, "No, homie, you stay away from that, stay away from that." And so having a village around me that just threw things at me to see how I would respond creatively, academically, physically, like those types of things, man. I just got into a lot of different stuff early on, man. And it's been interesting. So I was in band. I was in one of the first kids to I built a skate park, a little half pipe in my backyard. Just because my uncle was one of the first Black guitarists in the punk band, and he skated, and so that was in Chicago in our backyard, man. Like that's what it was, and so also growing up on the South Side, it's it's a little different for certain things, and you got acclimated into that, but yeah, my tribe, my grandmother, my mom made sure that I kept a book in my hand. I always would go to academic things. I would learn new things. I would always experience in museums and ask questions. I was encouraged to ask questions and be curious. And honestly, man, that's really what has propelled me to this moment, is that like there's literally no experience that I can get into where I haven't had some sort of exposure. And I think for me, I look back into that and I'm just like, man, I was really blessed. When I wanted to learn about Kwanzaa growing up, my grandmother took me to a festival that God knew that started Kwanzaa, right? Like, she was an artisan and things like that. If I wanted to, we used to go to, now it's popular HGTV, but we used to go to thrift stores and buy old furniture and, put kente cloth on them and sell them at fairs and things like that. And that was my grandmother. So, and she was also graduated high school at 15, was a drum major at Alabama State, like all that type of stuff, man. So we just had this upbringing where it was just, if you interested, you get exposed to it, you learn how to do it, and it just becomes part of your fibers. So By the time I got to college at the University of Illinois, I was like, man, I already had a
Mm,
ton of different things. I didn't need to go
that's
crazy
right.
because I was already exposed to a lot of these different things. So yeah, man, that's pretty much what it was growing up.
Let me tell you something. You mentioned a word at least 3 times that I think is one of the biggest superpowers and gifts that can be offered to people. One of them is prayer. That's not what you just mentioned, but one of the special gifts that I feel you can give somebody is prayer. Pray for them. But you said exposure
Yeah,
authentically, like 3 times. And what I realized is the power of exposure is significant. Look at the trajectory it's put you on, because you are one of the individuals that I look at very similar to a Jay May, who's also a mutual friend of both of us, who
from South Side as well. Just want to put that out there.
what'd you say?
I said we both from the South Side of Chicago. Just want to
What
put that
that
out there.
which is no coincidence to me, but you're also some of the smartest, most intellectual individuals that I've been around, and every time I'm around you, I leave with something more, and I know that is a reflection of the power of exposure. Like,
Absolutely.
y'all have been exposed, and not only being exposed, but you are willing to be sponges. Like, you download and you take it in, and it's no surprise in what you're doing now, which I'm so grateful for, that God has put his hand on you and is guiding you through this journey. And, we've spoken over the years about, how to move our culture to new spaces. And you've been heavy on this notion of everybody has an idea, but not everybody what? Executes.
Execute.
You always executes. And execution is where the magic happens. And it's a superpower, another superpower that I feel you exemplify, and you're an amazing example of the culture of execution, with what you're definitely doing with Spill. And social media obviously plays a significant role in shaping culture as we know it, right? And with all the roles and the ventures that you've had a part in creating over the years, what was a particular moment where you realized just how big and instrumental social media culture was to the shaping of overall culture?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny enough. So I worked at Visco. Well, actually, let me go back. I live my life by a phrase that if you can think it, it can be possible,
Okay.
right? And I attribute that largely to the exposure that I've had, because I've seen and done some things where it's like it shouldn't be possible,
Mm,
but by academic standards, right? Like,
that's right.
people like
Mm,
me and, whatever, it's like it shouldn't be possible, but it is because I thought about it. And it's like, if I can see the steps naturally, right? Like, if I can go from one little bit to the next and I can kind of figure that out, eventually I'm gonna get to the whole thing. And
mhm,
that's what the piece of exposure is like the reason why I'm able to do these things is because I've seen somebody else do it, or I can think about it, or I can kind of put the pieces together and eventually get to that point. And I'm honestly just not afraid of failing, right? Because I know there's no losses, there's only lessons, right? Like,
mm,
you grew up with that Thomas Edison kind of thing, right? You just like, oh, I didn't learn, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned 1,000 ways not to build, make a light bulb, right? And like that to me was one of the things where I just like, it just was seared in my brain, no pun intended for the light bulb thing, but it was just seared in my brain that like, oh, just keep trying, just keep trying, just keep trying. And like, eventually you're going to get it. I think the other the moment to answer your question that I realized like social media was just so impactful on the culture was very early on. I worked at a company called Visco, Visual Supply Company,
mhm,
and I remember that was around the time where Instagram was going crazy. You starting to realize like starting to see this creator class and economy start to build. And while I was there, we made the conscientious decision not to have likes or comments on our pictures.
mm,
And the reason why was because and it wasn't even a reason, but it was just one of I remember getting an email that was like, some young women were just saying like, hey, we feel so much comfortable being creative and expressing who we are without getting judged by the public eye.
mm,
And I never thought about that until I saw, there was a young lady who was on our platform that was, about to commit suicide. And like she had posted something and a whole bunch of people like in Visco, you can collect things. Like
Okay.
people kept collecting these things from her. And then it gave her this hope that like, yo, somebody actually cares about me and what I do, but it wasn't necessarily vocalized. And it was just one of those moments where I just felt like, wow, I didn't realize like how powerful social media could be in a person's day to day, right? Like it could stop that. You know what I'm saying? Like I just never
Mhm.
occurred to me. And then now you fast forward and it's like, oh yeah, while I'm at Twitter, all these uprisings have happened. We get to see the news on a day-to-day basis, like as it's happening in real time.
Right.
I mean, it was just one of those things where even when I was at Visco, the when Freddie Gray in Baltimore happened, right? Like young photographer Devin Allen, he was shooting it, and I just remember at 5:30 in the morning seeing these images come across, and I'm like, man, this looks like the '60s. Like, who's doing it?
How about that?
And, wasn't it? And I was just like, yo, and then he got the cover of Time, he got the cover of Newsweek, he got like all this stuff, and it's just like just seeing having that viewpoint and that lens on like what's happening now and how it's affecting this, Baltimore and all this. I was just like, wow, this is something that's just absolutely phenomenal, man. So I've had these like moments where I just like, it's funny, like I build social media networks and I just never use them to be fun,
Right.
to be real. Like I've got that dude. I got friends in real life. Like we talk in real life.
That part.
Right? But it's just like, wow, the power of scale, right? Like that's just something you just can't teach. And so for me, just being able to see that again and again and again in ways that I just never would expect, man, it's just been mind blowing to see.
Yeah, I think that's actually an amazing and great segue into what you are now doing, and I would love to hear from you about your inspiration behind Spill. I can kind of hear a little bit in what you just walked through, which I'm assuming a number of those elements play a large role in how you all envisioned Spill coming to life and its why, and really what sets it apart from other existing platforms like the Twitter and the newly launched Threads by Meta. And I think the reason why I'm asking this, I think for so many people, it can seem so daunting to try to execute on a concept like this in a space that has such a strong hold on it. And your insight here, I think, is going to be super empowering in helping others with not negotiating against your own vision.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the reason why we did it, actually, I'll be real. The reason why I was so excited about doing something like this was, I mean, you know me, man, and the people who don't know me, like I'm all about empowering our people. And we saw time and time again in this creator economy, folks that look like us coming up with the innovation, but other people kind of taking it and monetizing it. I mean, you know, it's just
Facts.
one of the things, man, where I literally remember seeing somebody was like, oh, creators of the year making $20 million, got a $100 million VC fund and this, that, and the third. And it's like, yeah, but you really wasn't the creator of it. You like, you just, you doing the sanitized version of what we see. And, though what has been done and you made it more palatable to the masses, but you aren't really like innovating. And so for me, it was just one of those things where I was just like, look, if I have a say so in doing this, and creating something, I want to make sure that the people who look like us that come from our cultures get rewarded for the innovation or creativity that they have. And to be real, man, like if you think about it, like once Twitter shut down, or once it kind of went back into more nefarious hands, it really wasn't a safe space for us to voice our opinions and to be that. Like Twitter was made off of Black Twitter, right? You can't deny that, right? Like every bit of slang that happened, all of the dances, like all these things came from our culture, and so we didn't have a space where we can just go be who we wanted to be, and be that without, worrying about, bad actors coming in and being racist or any of that type of stuff. And so for me, it was just kind of like, well, we needed a distribution outlet, right? So that way we can control it, and we can control what goes in and what goes out, right? And what I mean by that is that, we want to make sure that it's a safe space for people to create. And then if I do share something out that I'm going to get, proper attribution, I'm going to get, proper analytics and like all that type of stuff, right? So that I can go, to an agency and say, hey, this is my impact on the social sphere. When I put this dance out, yes, 50 million people viewed it, but like here's who they are, where they are, and now I'm armed with more information to go make money on my behalf, right? Based off of my creativity. Like, who else is even thinking about that type of stuff, right? And that's really where Fonz and I just kind of we linked up on that, because it's really our thesis and our kind of senior thesis around how do we make sure that we have our own differentiated voices in the culture and in the social sphere that we can monetize and use this as a viable opportunity to advance our families' lives and my own personal lives and like all that type of stuff. Like, that's really the rationale behind it. A funny story though, the name Spill actually comes from E40. So out here in the Bay, like, he will always say real spill, like when he's talking about things. And so for me, like, people was like, oh, spill the tea.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but it was like, yo, spill can be this amorphous thing, right? Like, there's many ways that you can do it. So gossip is, we spill the tea, or like we just, just talking back and forth, spill the tea.
Yeah.
But if I really want to get into this editorial thing and like things that matter to our communities, it's real spill. Like, when an OG sit down to talk with you, real spill, this is what it is. So that's really where it was kind of like, name of our company is actually called Real Spill Corporation. So
I love that.
Like, man, these are the types of things that, like, everything got a meaning, everything got extra layers behind it. But we just want to make sure that this is our swan song to the community, that we have a viable distribution channel that nobody else can touch and influence with whatever it is that they want to do.
Right. When you say nobody else can touch or influence, so what do you mean by that? Because, let me get you. Yeah, what do you mean by that?
I mean, you know what I mean, man. It's one of those things where we, from an editorial, from a censorship capacity, there are things that we do in our culture that might be off-putting to the masses. The way that we speak with each other colloquially. It's not going to be something that is going to ever pass a content moderation AI service. All right. Keep that real. All right. So for me, it's just kind of like, this is, we can build in the public eye, but doing it in our own image and doing it in our own ways that we express our culture. And that to me is the most important thing. Like, if there's a video that might be seen kind of on the edge for the masses, but like for us, we just understand it as like, this is what it is, right? Like, we've been forced to understand nuance, so that way, things when they come in, we can have these real pointed intellectual conversations around whatever the matter or topic is, without having to worry about pissing people off, and we can get to a place of understanding, right? Like, that's the type of stuff where, we ain't got to deal with a lot of the microaggressions. We don't have to deal with a lot of the not even macroaggressions too, right? Like we can be who we are in our nuanced selves 24/7 on our own distribution channel, and that is the most thing that's important.
Yeah, and so help me understand that. How does Spill then prioritize? You're speaking on this, like, user safety, inclusivity, and combating issues such as harassment and hate speech on the platform. Basically, how are you creating a culture of positivity and inclusiveness in addition to that?
Yeah, I mean, we worked with some of the folks that were at the foremost people in trust and safety in the industry, right? Like, we made sure that we had our ducks in a row. So when you go read our community guidelines, when you sign up, everybody looks like, oh, this is hilarious. Shout out to people if you want to sign up for Spill.
Right.
Use the invite code Spill Mob. But like, at the end of the day, is one of those things where we are very, very, very pointed about, okay, let's set the boundaries for how a community is going to get engaged. Second thing is that we use a mixture of machines and manual, all right? And so we've been behind the scenes, like we have a litany of people that are doing moderation, human moderation, looking at posts and things like that go against our community guidelines, and then that feeds back into our machine learning that does this stuff automatically. Now, It's interesting because things are on the edge, right? Like, you don't necessarily know which way things will go. And then that's when we have a conversation as a team, like, hey, is this something that should be allowed or disallowed, right? And so those are the types of things. And then honestly, man, like the beautiful part about it is the community themselves have taken to preserving this walled garden, right? And that's really what you want, right? Like, a lot of the other social platforms, you log in and it's like, that Kevin Samuels woman hating stuff every day. Like, oh, should you go 50-50 on your, it's like, yo, we don't have any of that type of stuff.
That's right.
When people do post it, the community's like, yo, take that down. We ain't doing that over here. Right. Like
Nice.
these, kind of clickbaity think pieces and all of that type of stuff. Like, a lot of that stuff we just don't tolerate because, or the community doesn't tolerate because they just want a safe space to think and be, right? Like we got so much stuff to worry about every single day just being black, man. And it's like a lot of times when you log onto these apps, you want to release, and it's like, now you forcing me to think about stuff, and not saying that we don't get into it for certain things, but it's just like a lot of stuff that's dividing us. It's just unnecessary in the social sphere, and the community themselves has done a good job policing that.
Good for you. As a Black founder, I would love to get your unique perspectives or experiences, that you bring to the table in developing something like Spill. Because again, to be a founder in this space is tough enough. But let's be fact, you're a Black founder.
Yeah. I mean, look, man. I think the thing that helps me a lot is that what a lot of Black founders don't understand is founder market fit is the panacea to a lot of your ills, right? And what I mean by that is, do you have experience in the thing that you're trying to build, right? Because venture capitalists is like any other money loaning in institution where all they're trying to do is just mitigate the amount of risk, right? Like think about your career, your LinkedIn page as your FICO score, right? If I go through your FICO score, if I go through your LinkedIn page and you're like, oh, I want to do something in fashion and footwear and I'm Astor Chambers, it's like, of course, here's all the money, all right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you've been doing this for a long time at a high level. So you doing that means that you're going into this new venture in that same space. It means that, my FICO score, my LinkedIn score, my risk mitigation, it's like, it's very high because I have knowledge of the thing that I'm trying to build, or I have networks that I can bring in of people that can help me get this thing off the ground, right?
That's right.
And so for me, working at Visco, working at Twitter, and then going and doing the social network again, it's like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Right?
That's right.
He's been a founder before. He understands this, right? Like he can do this. That's the thing. And so for me, I learned that very early on is like, look, when you have people that are trying to give you money, it's your job to limit the amount of risk that they feel in giving that to you. The number one thing that I try to tell Black founders is I'm not trying to sound like old head, but you have
you got a lot to offer.
Yeah, man. But this is the thing, right? Like the conversation is not about like, oh, I have the best product or like that type of thing. It's literally figuring out your distribution, but the conversation needs to change around. I mean, you need to say, if you give me $1 million or $3 million or whatever, in 5 to 7 years, I'm going to give you more than $1 billion back, right? Like black, white, yellow, purple, everybody.
That works for everybody. That works for everybody.
Everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody. First question they should ask, is it legal?
Right.
But the second question they'll ask is like, well, how are you going to do that? And that's when you go tell them your story, right? And like for us, we are the best storytellers in the world. I could talk to you about, what did you do this weekend? Yo, B, I did da-da-da-da-da. And it could be this amazing story about how you ate pizza, but it was like 30 minutes long and it's got all these things, but that's what we do every single time. And so at the moment we get to lean into our strengths, which is telling stories, we already got them. But you have to understand that the decision language of the people who got the purse. You know what I'm saying? They're incentivized to make more than $1 billion every 5 to 7 years. So if you can tell them how you're going to do that, easy. Like the easiest money that you'll ever get.
You just gave a for real workshop on entrepreneurship in a 2-minute segment.
I try to tell people it's easy. Look, man, I'm a college dropout from, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've been able to raise a whole bunch of money here and there, but it's just because I study, like, why do people say yes and why do they say no? And every time that I've gotten told no, I ask like, hey, what is that I can improve? And I just, just kind of course correct over time. But it's just one of them things, man, where it's like, look, I want everybody to succeed.
That's right.
Like Chris Rock said, the moment I can make Malibu's Most Wanted, that's when I know black actors have done great in Hollywood, right? Which is,
Right.
I can make stuff that's bad and it's still going to get funded, right?
That's
We don't have
right.
to be the magic purple spotted, unicorns in the room anymore. It can be anybody with a regular old idea. So I'm just giving away game for free. Like, oh, if you can, do the math and say like, hey, I can get this company to $1 billion in 5 to 7 years, venture capital is for you.
Listen, but the other thing you mentioned was the art of storytelling and how that's an innate quality that many of us bring to the table that many of us also don't recognize as currency, as a major asset and tool to generate these type of conversations. And you just so eloquently broke that down on we are at the forefront of storytelling down to our daily happenings. And these are things you need to incorporate when you're, and I don't want to call it the pitch, but when you're thinking about your idea, your concept, or the thing that you want to do, this is a major part of bringing that to life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what I'll say is learn the decision language and the levers that move people first.
That's
then
right.
Weave
That's
your
right.
narrative second.
Second.
And what I mean by that is when I go talk to, my data startup, Maroxa, like I have to know what the levers of success or metrics of success are for my company, right?
That's right.
If I can talk to eloquently about that, then I can weave in like, hey, this is what my experiences were that are going to make me the best founder to go tackle this problem. Stories of resilience, stories of me overcoming things, grit, perseverance, like all that type of stuff, man. Like, we got a lot of us have all of that already, right? It's the same thing that, that other folks revere when they hear about immigrants coming to this country and starting companies. Like we can talk, wax poetic and eloquently and all that stuff about our experiences, that we had to deal with growing up in these borders, right? Like these are the things that we have to learn how to use as risk mitigation. And as long as we can do that, it's like, if you're worried about me, succumbing under the pressure, let me tell you about 7th grade, right?
Yeah, let me tell you about the real pressure. I've been seeing pressure all my life.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like this, that's what I'm saying.
So you know what? And I think another big component of this is how do you build a community, right? And a user base. And I think that's critical also for any business. But in social media, like that's at the core. How did you approach community building and user acquisition for Spill?
I mean, the biggest thing is just being intentional about who we wanted to serve and think about what are the traditional barriers that they've had when people have tried to engage them, and you think about like a lot of these platforms, they got creator programs, everybody, we'll put up $1 million and for our community, community programs, creator programs, especially if they're creators of color, Black History Month, they fly you somewhere, take some pictures.
Exactly. Right.
Put a couple dollars in your pocket, that type of thing. But it's not anything that's sustainable. So you got a lot of these creators out here that are struggling, trying to do the basic things. And like really what we were saying is like, look, here's a roadmap. Here's what we'll do. Here's the reason why we're targeting you as our persona. Because look, at the end of the day, is really we're in service of you. I mean, just simple fact, man. Like, yeah, I might have 100,000 followers on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, but I can only really talk to 2 to 5% of them at a time. I did all this work and building my audience, but you're only allowing me to talk to 2 to 5% of my people at the time. And it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But it's like, we're like, yo, go talk to everybody, right? Like,
please
go. We want you to, because that means more engagement on the platform. That means more experiences that we can then further monetize on top of that, right? Like, if we wanted to have you do an email list or collect emails, then hey, you don't go pay MailChimp. You can pay us to go do that, right? Like, if I want to run fundraisers on the platform, don't go to GoFundMe. You can do this on the platform. Like, it's just that type of thinking where again, we don't come from a place of scarcity historically. we got my Dr. Umar for a second. Like we come from abundance. We share,
That's right.
we give, right? And so why not build that into the ethos of the platform where it's like, look, as long as we can grow the pie together equitably, it's going to be more for us to eat all the time. So let's just do that. And
that's a core value. That's a core value.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, and I think it leads into this, you know, with social media platforms often facing a lot of criticism for their impact on mental health, right? And privacy concerns, where I love what you just said, thank God, about making this available not just to the 2 to 3%, but all, right? Because I think that's one of the big hindrances I know for me on social media right now. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I going to trust something that's not even allowing what it is I'm putting out to truly get to the people that it can or should get to? So I'm not going to let your algorithm dictate my vision. Right. My vision still stays consistent outside of the algorithm manipulation and all that. So I'm glad to hear that Spill is not doing that, for the record.
Yeah, no, man. We want to make sure that, look, as long as you're talking in a way that abides by our community guidelines, man, and done in a safe way, like we're gonna, like, dude, we're only 6 months into this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we're still learning, but we've had the benefit of looking at the past 20 years of social media and just like, yo, that wasn't right. Like, we can do better, you know?
Right.
Especially for us, because our experience on social media is just wildly different than everybody else.
Wildly. But back to the mental health piece, right?
Yeah.
How does Spill address these concerns and prioritize, you know, user well-being in this environment?
Yeah, I mean, one of it is, I think, restricting the types of content that you'll see. Like, we're not gonna do the trauma porn stuff, man. You know, you can go get that anywhere else. You know, it's, you know, we've seen over the last 10 years what that's done to our community. You know, we've had some points where it's galvanized us and, you know, been a great cause to action and affected change and things like that. But like, if you want that, you can go get that anywhere else. Like right. we don't have to be at this point where we are, you know, affecting our community that way every single day, every single time. You know, and I think that that's a conscientious decision that we made. Not saying that we're gonna turn a blind eye to that stuff, but it's like, right. If we're gonna have a conversation about it, let's bring in the experts. Let's not have the hot takes and, you know, like all this other stuff. Like let's have real conversations about these things. So that way we can galvanize and mobilize so that we can do better for our own communities locally and then at large. And I think that that's really the ethos of us as a team. Like, we've seen the negative effects of how those things have affected our community from a social media standpoint. The second thing is that, you know, eventually, again, we're only 6 months into this, man, but we have ideas around, you know, around usage, right? So making sure beyond the screen time stuff that you see for you know, your device, but like, yeah, man, you don't need to be on our app all day, every day, right? Like yes, we appreciate the engagement, but at the end of the day, it's like, yo, you do know you've been on this for like 4 hours a day, right? And like, it might be time for you to get back to reality. And we're going to do some fun things around, like making sure people get back, you know.
That's dope. I love that.
You know what I'm saying? Just stuff like that, man, where it's like, yo, we're going to make money in a bunch of different ways. We don't have to keep you glued to your phone, because the beautiful part about social media is that, like, you should be able to build communities IRL and URL, right? And it's like, how do you bring those two things together? And that's what we're really trying to do.
I love it. Can you expand a little bit on the fact that you brought up a little earlier about so much of pop culture is born out of Black communities, i.e. Black Twitter, Black dance trends and all that you were speaking about, and without their proper recognition that you were speaking about, whether it's other creators stealing their IP or platforms not financially rewarding them properly. Why do we as a community allow or enable this to continue to happen, bro? And what can be done about it? And then what was that part of the inspiration behind starting Spill?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what can be done about it? Look, man, it's hard to establish provenance, right? But really, how do I say, like, I'm the first to do something, right? Because a lot of times it's I was inspired by this, and then I kind of did my own thing, but you can still see elements of this and blah, blah, blah. unless you Miles Davis, who like changed jazz like 8 different times. It's like, yo, I'm gonna do me. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that kind of thing. But I think for us is really the what we kept seeing was like young black women in Atlanta were creating all these dances on TikTok. But then you turn on Jimmy Fallon and you see a young white lady doing the dances and she's getting all the credit for it. And that to me was like, and when I talked about it earlier, it was like, when I saw that she raised the VC fund for creators and this, that, and the third, I'm like, yeah, that, you know, what could that money have done for that young dance troupe down in
That part that actually created it.
You know what I'm saying? And we've been conditioned to not be as litigious as a community because we don't trust the legal system. So we automatically go into it thinking like, even if I do sue this person, the legal system ain't gonna do right by me because I have infinite number of examples when they've never done, despite me posting the cop doing double dutch in the hood videos, right? You know, like that type of thing.
Wow.
Like the legal system has never done right by me. So why would I go and sue this person? Right. And then when I get to the lawyer, they're going to be like, you know, it's going to cost me more to fight this than you actually going to win. So, you know, you just don't. And it's just like, yeah, man, at every single point, they tell you don't fight for what's yours.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's really the toughest part. So I get it, man. I get it 1,000%. But someday, I mean, the reason why we say like, look, attribution is going to be part of our tech platform where, you know, we use the blockchain to basically do like royalties, right? Like, you know, if you put something out there, we establish provenance that you are the first person to do that. We have like a system that we're building behind the scenes that does all of that stuff for you.
Dope.
Because, you know, we get in the music industry. Like, if I hear a sample, I hear, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, go give me my coins, all right? Like, it's just one of those things. But it should really be that for content now. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the thing. But yeah, man, we just are so jaded as a society and culture with the legal system that we don't even know how to fight these things, right? Like the worst we can do, you know, if it's a clothing designer that sees Balenciaga stealing their stuff, or, you know, Gucci stealing Dapper Dan's stuff and like all these things, it's like, you know, we have to rely on our influence of culture and the influence of celebrity to do that, but not everybody has that. And that's we got to level that playing field and make it more equitable at some point.
Yeah, and thank you for, you know, highlighting the fact that it's a mean onion that's being peeled here, because it's not even on the surface level of what I was talking about in terms of, you know, the IP, what I call it, being stolen and taken by somebody else, and them being able to benefit from it in a more greater way than those who've created it. But it's then the next layer of, well, damn, if I even tried to go prove myself right, is the system going to enable me to get the justice that I deserve? I've seen in the past. No. So I hope people really hear and feel the levels. And so now we go back to the perseverance and the storytelling and the resiliency. And it's so great that an individual, like I say, like yourself, is still pushing through to create these spaces and these things, regardless of the layers that we do have, and is a real thing. And having opportunities for us, in some instances, hopefully not have to deal with those things.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, man. I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, right? Like, the reason why I'm doing it is not necessarily money, but for me, it's just to inspire folks, right? Like, you know, just to show them that, hey, you got an idea, you know, this is how you formulate that, this is how you execute it, this is how you monetize it, and then you can get back to the next thing, right? Like everybody, like we say, everybody got ideas, now everybody can execute, man. And I want to help show people that the barriers to execution are not that high, you know?
Well, you know, you talked about the monetization thing a minute ago. And in terms of that, what revenue models does Spill employ? And how do you kind of balance generating revenue with providing a valuable and engaging platform for users?
Yeah, I mean, ads, number one, right? Like you know, ads, in-app purchases, and then being a data provider, right? And like, those are the three ways that you can monetize. And I guess like sponsor stuff, but that gets into ads, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's it, man. It's not very, very difficult. The thing that people don't realize though is like in-app purchases are for real. You know, that's
Yeah,
you know, if
it's a
you,
real
you got
thing.
you got kids, do they play Roblox or Minecraft
1000%.
or Fortnite? Like Fortnite was damn near, I think, like almost 10 figures of revenue on in-app purchases. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I get asked. I get asked for money more for Roblox than I do to go shopping for clothing.
right, right. Like you want these Jordans? Nah, I want this like little
Give
in-app
me some
thing.
credit on Roblox. Yeah,
You know what
give
I'm
me some.
saying? like that's where we at today, man. You know, and it's this is the other thing. Just quick sidebar. Esports by itself is worth more. Like the industry of esports is worth more than the movie industry. It's worth more than the music industry. And if I'm not mistaken, it might be bigger than all of the professional sport leagues combined. That's how fast
Combined.
esports is growing and is today. Because you got to think about it. You got to hit the genetic lottery to you know, the major sport leagues, I should say. You got to hit the genetic lottery and years and years and years of training and equipment and all the other stuff to get to the league. And that's really only about, let's say, 2,000 people at most across all leagues.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You know, 3,000 maybe. All right. Anybody can pick up these sticks, bro.
That's right.
Anybody. So, you know, this is one of those things where it's like, yo, in-app purchases, like everything around the spill thing, whether it's skins and all this other stuff, like, yo, we just charge for that, you know, and give you things to make your experience better. Like it's simple, but it's like you have to come in with that mindset. Again, another message to founders. Always think about making money from day one. You do not want to say, we don't, especially as Black founders, we don't get that luxury of you
That's
build
right.
it,
The
you
runway.
want to adoption, then you can raise. No, you have to make money from day one.
Mm. So looking forward, right? What are your long-term goals and aspirations for Spill, and kind of how do you envision the platform evolving and making a lasting impact in the social media space?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think for us, it's one of those things where I wanted to be up in the Lex. I mean, it's already kind of crazy. We're pre-seed, invite only, iOS only company that's in the same conversation as multi-billion-dollar companies that have had 15-year head starts. Let's just go ahead, you know,
Yeah, put it out there.
you know what I'm saying? So,
Let's go.
I think our legacy is that, like, you know, we saw what Omar did with Black Planet, you know, back in Web 1.0. We didn't really have our own thing in Web 2.0 because Facebook and Instagram and all these other things kind of usurped that. I think for the new economy and the new future going forward, we just want to be a part of the conversation, man. A place where we can go be ourselves, be our best creative selves, tell stories, and then be able to get to monetize on that. And if we can do that, I think that is our legacy. We want to be up in the pantheon of, you know, we don't want to be Friendster. We want to be TikTok. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, this upstart came in and changed the game. Like, if we can do that, that would be good.
When you do that.
When we do that, I got to speak with intentionality, man. You know?
Come on, man. And you do on everything. But I just, you know, sometimes you just need the help. I'm your side guy. I'm your side guy just reminding you when you do it. When you do it.
When we
So
do
listen, you're the opening scene to your life documentary is about to begin. Each story. Varsa, what song is playing and why?
First song that popped into me was Jeezy Trap or Die. And it's because it's a song I listen to pretty much every day, man. That's like my getting ready song. That's like I feel motivated by seeing now that we're grown, it makes it hits a lot harder because seeing where Jeezy came from and seeing where he's at now, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it hits a lot harder. So for me, it's just like that motivation to always stay hungry, always stay humble, but do it at a level that nobody else is going to be able to do. And that to me is the song that like literally just popped in my head.
So that'll be the opening scene to your life documentary. It makes total sense.
Absolutely.
Well, look, we always end these sessions, you know, with asking what are the 3 seeds you'd want to leave with the stewards of culture moving forward, and you've dropped so many. But I'd love, what 3 things come to your mind that if nothing else, leave with this?
I would say failure is an essential part of your journey, because it gives you the lessons to be successful going forward. Right? You only fail if you make the same mistake twice. Right? So that's point one.
Wait, say that one again. Wait, say that last piece again.
You only fail if you make the same mistake twice.
Man, listen. Go
Right?
ahead.
Because that means you didn't learn.
I loved it. Listen, it was so strong. So please go.
I appreciate it, man. The second one is, I would say, don't discredit yourself and your experiences from trying something new, because there's this term about imposter syndrome and things like that and blah blah blah. But like, basically, if you feel uncomfortable trying something new, that means you're in the right place. That means that it is your time to elevate beyond the circumstances that you're already in and to get in something new, so that you can reference point one, which is no losses, only lessons. Right? So keep building. And the third thing I would say is that, we really have to be great stewards of our culture. And what I mean by that, and I'll double click into that, and being great stewards, is that, like I mentioned before, we are a collective group, right? Ain't none of us really made it to the point where we can say like, oh yeah, we good now. So we always have to keep paying it forward, and we always have to help. Does that put an unnecessary burden on us? Sometimes.
Yep.
But I think it's our duty as culture bearers, as people that have insights as to what really these levels are beyond the expert beginner stuff. Like, yo, this is really what success is. We need to, again, expose people and require more of them so they can always get to that point of, yo, I'm paying it back, paying it forward for the next generation that comes on. And that's what I mean by being good stewards of our culture.
Mm-hmm. Man, listen, I always walk away from our conversations feeling further inspired. I get another level of depth from you and appreciation for who you are. And I'm so grateful that literally God's hands are on you and you're doing what you're doing and you're spreading the knowledge and the awareness and you're setting the tone as an example. I can't thank you enough for that. And I really hope you get the gist of it. When I say I truly value you as a person, while we may not speak super often, we speak enough. And every time we speak and every time I see what you're doing, I'm applauding you on a whole nother level. And today was another reflection of that, bro.
Man,
I mean, literally,
likewise,
I can't thank you enough.
Likewise, I really do appreciate you giving me this platform to just talk. You know what I'm saying? That we just get to chop it up, man. And I hope people listen to this and they see like this is what brotherhood should be. You know, this is what we should be doing for each other. Where it's like, we ain't pocket watching, we ain't hating, sideline hating. We just elevating each other and really just elevating each other, just saying like, hey, this is what we can be doing for each other. And we're going to continue to keep paying it forward for each other, man. And that's really what I want from anybody listening today, is that we are our own best supporters and getting out of the circumstances that we had. It was real quick, man. It was a study that I saw that was like, look, Black unemployment is, whatever it is, you pick a demographic or age range or whatever, but it's hovering around 16%, 16 to 20%, right? If we take all of the sole proprietorships that we have in the Black community and hired one extra person making a living wage, we can close the unemployment gap and we can close the wealth gap by, I think it's like 70-something%. We are our own best supporters. We got everything that we need, man. All these fancy degrees, all these consultancies, all this stuff. Just hire one extra person and we can eradicate a lot of the ills of our society. That's the crazy part. 98% of Black businesses are sole proprietorships, man. So like, these are the types of things that are like, yo, we got what it takes. Let's just do it for ourselves. We ain't got to ask somebody else. We can do this for ourselves. And that's why I'm like, yo, just happy to break bread with you and elevate your platform so you can be successful, so you can get more and more people to help out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we got to do for each other.
We truly appreciate your support because it helps us fulfill our mission of promoting cultural awareness and personal development. Please click the subscribe button below to help ensure and solidify our mission.